Do a roll call attendance. Carla Nazaro,
Here.
John Coop,
Yes.
Aaron Herrick,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Ed Ross,
Yes.
Greg Stepler,
Yes.
Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
Sarah McLaughlin.
Yes.
Okay. The first item on the agenda tonight is a review of the responses from the owner's project managers. The request for services. I don't know if everyone had a chance to review them and score them. And can have a bit of a discussion, or we could try to average everyone's scores to rank them.
Mr. Chair,
Sure, Aaron?
left my matrix at home, which is awesome.
Okay.
But in filling it out, and not having any familiarity with these firms, I felt like I was ranking them on how well they responded to the RFP, which is important, attention to detail. But I was hoping that some of the building professionals on this committee could perhaps have some additional insights and maybe have worked with them, because I didn't see the Saugus High School in any of these binders, and I didn't see the Amesbury Elementary School either, so clearly, like, you know, we got what we've got, and we got some great responses.
Yeah. The Amesbury Elementary School is actually in here. I think it was left field maybe,
Or maybe they didn't feature it.
but they may not have
Yep.
listed it. But we can discuss them. I've worked with a couple of the firms. I'm definitely familiar with most of them. A couple of the submissions stood out to me. They kind of, for me, they graded into three groups of two. I don't know how they landed for anyone else, but there were kind of two that jumped out at the top, two in the middle, and then two that were that scored lower. Then I tried to go through, since I have some knowledge of them, I went through the documents submitted and graded them based on the responses. I don't know if anyone else has any commentary on the.
I do, Karen, I know what you're saying, like sometimes you're feeling like you may feel like you need to be a construction person to look at it, but the different perspectives, I think, when you're looking at these things, the different perspectives are helpful, so.
Yeah, and I was thinking I had questions and comments and senses which are not accounted for in the matrix, which also made it a little tricky.
Right.
But, you know, did they do what we asked them to do? It was easy enough to rank them.
Exactly.
I'll echo what Pat said. Having been a part of putting sales presentations together and then also reviewing them, it's kind of boilerplate. Did they, at a minimum, did they respond to all the required elements is one aspect of it. The second is that they're all using generally similar language to respond to the same item for each of the required criteria. So you end up almost reading the same blurb from each of them. So the question in my mind was what differentiates them. One was attention to detail, the quality of just the product, 'cause that's the first thing we see. And then what I've come to learn in my experience is really it's principally the differentiator is the people. So I focused a little less on just the boilerplate content than I did. I actually spent more time looking at the staff, proposed staff, whether they're even still employed there or not. Some of the people that I know at a couple of these places, and that's where I really drew my differentiation was what the staff looked like, what their expertise and experiences were, how long they had been with the companies, because some of them had a staff with one experienced person and a bunch of people with 1 year or less, and it's kind of like how is that representative of your company and your philosophy and your approach if they've not completed a single project for you. So that was my take.
Yeah, I agree. I also looked at I definitely discounted past performance. There was one submission that definitely relied heavily on the past performance of an individual. That wasn't necessarily the company's past performance, so I discounted that heavily. A lot of the past performance, you could see there are a couple companies that have a lot of experience with what we're doing. There were a couple that have some experience, and some of those projects were much smaller. And then again, it tapered off from there. So I thought that could be evaluated. It was difficult. One of the items that jumped out, satisfactory working relationships. So they all said they have great
all
working
did, I
relationships.
noticed that.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's very, obviously, it's very difficult to grade that without getting on the phone and talking to people.
Yeah.
And you know, in my mind, I wrestled with that, but I came to the conclusion that that would be part of our next phase. When it got into some of the other portions, knowledge of Commonwealth procurement laws and state building codes, I looked at their proposed staff on the building codes. I looked for professional engineers and registered architects. From a procurement standpoint, virtually every one of the respondents has someone on their team that's MCCPO certified. So they kind of all scored, you know, equal there for me, as well as some of the later categories like knowledge with New England Collaborative High Performance Schools and LEAD, life cycle analysis, and you know, the building commissioning. Generally speaking, they all have experience with that. Personally, I discounted some firms that were relying on for commissioning, maybe they were relying on a consultant for their experience. They were very explicit about that. So, you know, that's kind of how I went through it. The financial statements, which that should all be confidential, and everyone should just be very careful about that, because that's not a public document. That shouldn't get out. For the most part, I you know, as long as they submitted something in that regard, I almost discounted that. Because I felt like if they submitted the financial statements, then they you know, then they kind of get full points there. I didn't get into trying to evaluate those, mostly because I'm not an accountant. I don't know if anyone else has any comments or any other thoughts on how they were, you know, presented. Karen?
Some of the financials were not current, were kind of old, which worries me a little bit again, but again, you could do a little more research if that's the only thing that was concerning you. And then it struck me as a non-building professional that one firm came across as, we love design, build, and another firm was like, we are very comfortable with what construction management at risk, and I didn't know how much that should play into this discussion tonight, or who you want to invite back.
Yeah.
There was one that did not submit a financial statement. They said they submitted as a separate item, left field. So, you know, there's no way you could evaluate that one. So.
Yeah. So did they submit it separately?
They did.
Yeah.
We didn't see it, so you can't rate it. So
Was it scanned in? But I can.
if we can,
pass it
yeah,
around.
yes.
That's not uncommon, because they're just trying for it not to be in a binder that might be floating around.
And there was one that I considered an incomplete submission. There were pages missing.
Right.
That was correct. They just didn't have, pages 5 and 6 were just missing. So you can't evaluate.
Unless
Not
it didn't
there.
get scanned in,
So
that
you
was
gotta-
my question.
No, they did not get,
They did not,
because we checked.
you've got it, okay, very good.
Checked the hard
Yeah,
copy.
yeah, I agree with you.
Checked in both.
So, if you can't.
CREF, right?
Yeah.
CREF.
Yes. Yeah, I just checked that. So.
And Pat, if I could, just to add on to what everyone else is saying, it looked like there were a couple of firms that had a pretty thoughtful understanding what Greg said, that it's a boilerplate. A lot of the responses are gonna be a little bit the same, but I thought that there were a couple that had very thoughtful responses, especially on their involvement with MSBA projects, and their approach to walking through the MSBA project, which I thought were helpful. And then there was one firm in particular that just seemed to have a lot of experience with MSBA jobs, and overall, to me, presented just a very solid proposal, so we can get into those details as we go on.
Did you like this? Oh, yeah. Does anyone have any particular firms or questions that they, or discussion points on particular companies that we wanna talk about?
Pass it over to John if John wants to take a look.
That's the
What's that?
financial for
Okay.
Lakeview.
This one. Okay.
I'm just peeking at my neighbors here and around this end of the table, the numbers for the first three firms seem to be consistent.
Yeah,
So
And
I don't know if there's another.
put up?
One thing that I thought would be useful is Dale Gienap, right, is our house doctor. He obviously is in this field as well, and I thought that he might be able to in a similar way share, right, his experience, and just for full transparency, Dale, because he's our house doctor, he's not involved in the building process, so just to put that out there. I don't know if Mr. Chair, you want to hear from Dale or?
If Dale's on the line, I'd be happy to hear from him, what he thinks and what he knows about the firms from his experience in the industry. Someone might need to unmute him.
Yeah. He should be ready to unmute now. Dale, give that a shot. Jackie just made you
Okay.
co-host. There you go.
Yes, that worked, okay. Good evening all. So I can kind of give you a rundown. I've not worked with all of these firms, obviously, but have had some familiarity with them. A couple of things that I noted, and some of it's influenced by my past experience or other awareness that not necessarily in these proposals, and I can focus on what was specifically submitted as you wish. One of the things and these are not in any particular order. One thing, of course, everyone will have noticed, it's Turva, right, that has not actually done,
Yes.
no, I'm sorry, it's REF that has not done any MSBA funded projects. I'm sure everyone picked up on that. Left field is, we have never been like on the same project with them, but I have seen submissions and things that they've done from MSBA, so just in full disclosure. One thing I noticed was that all of the projects that they've done have been CM at risk, I believe. They didn't indicate any that are design build, not saying that they couldn't do that, but that seemed to be their preferred path. That I also concurred about the staffing was, I thought, one of the things, and the way the form sort of appears in some cases, it's almost as if more is better, but I tried to sort of look at the number of staff they have compared to the number of projects. So I think left field, for instance, is one. You know, they sort of have 12 projects on the boards that seem to be in process. Who exactly all the staff are is unclear, but it sort of appears they have like 35 project managers. So how that is playing out, I thought was sort of, you know, something for discussion. Turva, there's one oddity how Turva apparently has worked with left field. It seems they represent that the Billerica High School is their project. So I guess I do think it said in Turva at one place that they worked together on that project as well as one other.
Which project was that? Oh,
The
Billerica?
Billerica High School.
Okay.
You mentioned somebody was a sub.
I think it was acknowledged in Turva's response, but not in left field that they worked together on that.
Okay.
But the project appeared in both. Sure, the description, as people were saying, there is a lot of sort of platitudes and rhetoric, and having to write these things myself, I know how it can be. I thought answer sort of stuck out as being very customized and trying to actually put, you know, some meat on the bone. When they said they were going to do something, they tried to a little bit illustrate specifically how they were going to do that. There were others that had some of that, but that one answer I thought just jumped out as being a little more thorough that way than some of the others. I don't want to keep rambling, if, well, I guess I can stop and see if there's specific questions. Colliers is very large, obviously. They have a number of projects, you know, on the boards or that they're currently working on, and also largely their projects are much bigger than you're surely hoping Killam will be. I'll sort of pause there. I can add to it if, well, unless you want me to keep going.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on what Dale had to say so far? You wanna keep going, Dale? Go ahead.
Well, I can a little bit, as I say, Kraft acknowledged, and I think somebody brought that up already, that they really hung their hat on one person's prior experience, had no other projects, so you know, how do you get experience without experience? But this might be a pretty significant project to just break into. Their staffing is also a little bit unclear. The cover letter, they refer to 170 person staff, but then when they list people, they have 36 people. So I'm assuming these are in other offices or someone. Answer, in particular, as I said, I thought they did a fairly thoughtful description. Also just noted, you know, they had 4 primary schools that were similar to Killam. They had more than that, but 4 in particular that were sort of most similar, maybe to Killam in terms of size, were each by a different architect, which I thought was interesting that, you know, where the OPM is partly involved in the selection. You know, so they're sort of open. And 2 of those in particular, the Raleigh Pine Grove, just, I happen to be familiar with that project. That was a very limited renovation, so they didn't steer that to be an overly embellished project. And the Clark Avenue School in Chelsea is sort of on a very tight site, even more so than Killam, in that they have no on-site play fields or anything. It's really an urban type of school. But there's going to be some similar issues. And the such project director seemed fairly experienced, like 30 years and 13 years with the firm. Colliers, just my review was I thought of most of them, their description might have been more generic than a lot of them. And I know that's a very hard thing to focus. They only know a certain amount of the project. The project manager has about 12 years experience, 3 at the firm. So again, as someone else said, I was kind of really focused on the staff. It's hard to determine exactly their staffing. They indicated, you know, they seem to, you know, they carry, I don't know, national or regional. You know, they indicated 72 project managers. I don't think there's that many in Boston. Some of them are probably at their other office in like New Jersey or whatever. They listed 8 ongoing large projects with 72 project managers. But again, it was hard to ferret that out exactly how many. Hill, I thought, was sort of very generic types of description. They do talk about they do not have in-house cost estimate. Most of them did not. They work with PM&C. There was another one that also worked with PM&C, and I have no problem with them. I think they have a very good reputation in the business and being on target, and they do many school projects. Their staffing is a little less clear. They only list 3 architects, and not that project managers have to be architects. They list under their count sort of 28 others that are not construction inspectors, or so who are those staff and who are the, you know, the senior project manager. It looked like from the write-ups that really comes down to a Thomas Finnegan is going to be the person you'd be mostly dependent on as the senior project manager. He's been with Hill for 5 years, 25 years experience, so he has some depth. There was also a project director who's, I guess, overseeing that whole role. I think I mentioned left field also uses, so switching to left field, they also use PM&C as a cost estimator. They have a high number of projects. They have 12 major school projects in the works, it looks like. So is that a good or bad? They have a good range of architects as well that they've worked with. That's kind of the rundown that I had.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments or discussion points? Karen?
One of the things that struck me from a couple of the submissions was the commitment to working with the town and the community on the constant communication and the website design, and not that we needed lots of demonstration of the social media pieces that they do, but it is, it's an important part of, it was an important part of our library project.
Yeah.
And so somebody who recognizes that in their submission is, that's good.
Yeah, I agree, and I think they pretty much all acknowledged it, but definitely a couple of the respondents went much deeper. In my scoring, I ended with Hill and Collier's probably just because of the vast experience they had. I ended those two with the highest rankings, in Turba and left field were sort of in the middle, and Creffen and Answer were at the lower end. It was probably largely based on their overall experience, their past performance. I scored them all. Try to do the best you can to score them on a 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 or 1 to 15, and try to score them on the content of theirs as opposed to comparing them to each other. It's hard not to compare them to each other. We could add up, if everyone has their scores, we could add them up and average them. It doesn't have to be a final, but we can see where the average scores land, and if there's a clear cut division between 3 and 4, unless anyone wants to talk the discussion anymore about anyone in particular. Carla?
I actually scored the same way as you. I had Collier and Hill as 1 and 2. I had Turva not far behind Hill. And then I had left field as 4th.
Yeah.
The other two fell off my board, so to speak.
Yeah.
I can jump in and echo that my top two also were Colliers and Hill in that order, with the others. A couple fell out completely and then a couple kind of in the middle. But again, just looking at it from the perspective of completeness of response and quality of response, not having construction management. I think some of the stuff Colliers, well, it was kind of generic in terms of nothing specific to Reading. I think, calling out community involvement, the top two firms I think did, and in my ranking, and also subject matter experts that they lean on, in terms of, I think, Collier's mentioned the wellness expert as well as lead.
Does everyone want to, did everyone, I know Karen, you don't have yours. You don't have one either. Okay, did you score them, Greg?
Yes and no, I didn't actually score them all out, I just have
Okay.
them, I have them ranked.
Okay.
Bottom 2 out of the bottom, and then I could drop a third or a 4th one off if you needed me to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could give you my top 4.
I just, for full disclosure, I had Creffen Hill out the bottom.
Okay. I think,
Sounds like we all agree Cruff is out.
Yeah, good.
yeah, I think so.
That's
Similar,
all for me
yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Again, most of my analysis is from a non-construction background, was more looking at, presentations in and of themselves. But frankly, so much of what we just talked about in the last 20 minutes has, kind of helped shape, and either confirm or, kind of question even how I would have ranked them too. So this has been between the folks on the committee and Dale, it's been really helpful.
I did notice some of the submissions had, in addition to the health and wellness expert, a couple of educators on there. So in your experience, do these OPM teams for schools frequently have like a non-building person that adds this other aspect?
I've never really, in my experience, I've never experienced that. I don't know, to be honest, I don't know how much value it would bring. We're gonna rely on our educators, the superintendent and our people to give feedback. At the design level, an architect with that type of experience, I think that makes a lot of sense, because they're actually designing the building. So if they have educators on staff or otherwise getting input from educators outside of the town of Reading, I think that makes a lot of sense, because they're designing the classrooms, they're designing, all the different spaces, all the special spaces. But the OPM, the owner's project manager, is more managing the process for us, right? They're not really designing it, so I wouldn't see a ton of value there.
The educational plan is gonna drive the design. So
Right.
as long as the OPM is willing to listen and open to it, we'll have teachers
Right.
and stuff, educators there, to kind of drive that process too.
Yeah. John, do you wanna share some of your thoughts on, you could pass me your thing, I could enter your numbers, you could give me your numbers, so you could just
I
tell
think-
us roughly how you
Before
score
we
people.
go to numbers, we should kind of realize what the numbers mean. In my philosophy is if they responded well on an item and seemed to cover all the points, then they deserve the maximum number of points. So, and most of the companies, with the exception of two, in my view, did respond well. So, if it was a 10-point thing, I gave them all 10 points.
Yeah.
But other people may have other people say, well, if they responded well, I'll only give them 5 or something like that. So
It's hard to compare.
it's hard to compare different people's philosophy of how you rate these things.
Yeah.
So I just said if they responded well and they seemed to be qualified, they get the maximum number of points.
Right.
And if they didn't, I dropped them down.
Kind of like if they say that they work well with architects and contractors and everything,
Yeah.
you give them the points.
What can you say? I mean, they're liars or something like that.
So
I
who are
didn't get
who are the two at the lower end of yours?
The two was left field and Cref was the low end.
Okay.
Cref I thought was just non-responsive. They had pages missing from their
Yeah.
submittal, so you can't rank them on those items.
Yeah.
Left field, I deducted some points and they came out lower. The other 4 were all within 4 points of one another, so it was
Okay.
100 to 96, as
Yeah.
it were.
Kirk, you wanna
Yeah, so for me-
randomly moving around the table?
Yeah, no problem. So I'll just join the consensus about Cref. I was not impressed with their proposal at all. Hill, I thought that it was a little generic, like even more than what we've been talking about. So those were my two low ones. Hill and Cref.
Nancy?
Yeah, sure. I mean, with Crawford, they missed that part of it, so it's hard to give them points when you don't see what they're supposed to have, and I was feeling bad about that, but everybody else felt the same way.
Well, and just for me, it was also, there were a lot of typos.
Typos, yeah.
It was not well put together. in my
Right,
opinion.
and
Yeah.
one of them, I think it was Hill, had Revere in there instead of Reading, yeah, or was that?
I think that
I'm
was
not sure
Cref.
if it was.
I think
That was Craft,
Yes,
okay,
it was
yeah,
Craft,
Craft, yeah, so
Yeah.
clearly they were not interested. I had Collier's high, they hit all the hot buttons, they did all the work, they've got all the experience. I actually rated Love Field pretty high too, I think maybe because I loved the way they talked about Reading and had that connection. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I did notice that they had few people with a lot of work. But then when I went in and looked at when those jobs they have under continuing were gonna end, a lot of them are ending in 2023. So it might be worth a conversation with them, I don't know, but I was kind of impressed with left field. They did have an educational liaison, but if that's not a big deal, then maybe that's not as important as I was thinking it might be. I didn't like Turva, I didn't think that they had enough experience with, I didn't see too much in elementary schools with them. I think they were the one that was mostly university, right? And then I liked Hill, but it's a small firm, so I was a little worried about the number of people and what we're doing, but maybe that's okay. And then I happened to like Answer, again, I thought they covered all the buttons but they're also a very large firm and they seem to have engineers and architects coming out the wazoo, so it seemed like it was something that might be beneficial. That's where I am. So Colliers, yes. Left field, if I can be convinced that they may not be somebody worth talking to. Answer and Hill, I got rid of Turva and Gruff.
And Nancy, if I could, left field and Colliers were my top two also,
Yeah.
for what it's worth.
Okay. Yes, throwing a monkey wrench in there, I thought we were gonna get rid of
I
left.
know.
I thought we were gonna get rid of left field.
Well, maybe we interview 4, who knows?
Yeah, I think we may be leaning towards interviewing 4. I think Kref is definitely out of the mix.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with Colliers, left field, Turva, Answer, and Hill. Hill is a little bit polarizing. I think that they were either a top pick or not. Left field's a little bit of the same. One of the things about left field is that I believe, and Dale mentioned this, virtually everything that they've done of size is CM at risk,
Right, so it may
Which-
not be a good match, yeah.
which I don't think we've 100% determined our procurement method, but I believe we're leaning towards design, bid, build. I don't think this project lends itself to CM at risk, I would
Does
feel.
the MSBA allow that?
They do. They do. Any project, and there's someone on the line that's knows more about procurement, jump in anytime. And any project that goes CM at risk, you need to submit a request to, I think, the Inspector General to get an approval. But MSBA, any public project, I think, can be procured CM at risk. There's definitely, I think all parties agree there's a cost increase. At the low end, they'll talk about a 5% cost increase. At the high end, there'll be a discussion of a 20% cost increase. The benefit of the CM at risk is having a contractor effectively on board during design. For this project, I would strongly advocate design, bid, build, because I think it'd be adding cost unnecessarily.
Agreed.
Just one person's opinion, but a potential project, 2 people, a potential project that would lend itself to CM at risk would have been the high school project. An extremely complicated occupied renovation project where the contractor, the construction manager, general contractor, can really provide a lot of value during design. That's my opinion, but that is something that jumped out at me, and left field did have a lot of CM at risk. So questioning whether or not they had experience doing design, bid, build, which a building's a building, bricks and mortar are bricks and mortar. But the procurement method is a little different. And I didn't see much there for design, bid, build by left field.
I noticed that.
Trying to think about Answer. If they had much design, bid, build experience as well. I don't know. But if we wanted to get down to if we want to interview 4, we pretty much need to eliminate 1 more. Sounds like, everybody was impressed with Collier's. So it looks like they would be in, and it would be between Hill, Answer, Turva, and left field. For me, if I was gonna eliminate one of those, I would eliminate Turva or left field. Although I rank those both higher than Answer, so this discussion has changed my opinion.
Would you like some time to discuss with yourself?
Yeah. One of the things someone mentioned about Answer, which did resonate with me as well, is it might have been the most, the project approach seemed to be the most customized,
Yes,
the
yes, I agree.
least boilerplate.
And it seemed to have a very good focus on funding issues early in the process and
Yeah.
speaking with MSBA and making sure you're doing everything right to make sure you're securing the funding and getting the reimbursement for everything. So they were the one that I flagged as being the best description of their approach.
Yeah.
So for me, I had left field, Turva, and Answer all within a few points, and just based on that, I would probably put Answer. I could be talked into moving them up above left field, especially if it is leaning towards a design bid build job instead of CM at risk, for the reasons that you just mentioned, Pat.
Yeah.
So, but I'm open to discussion about that. But I was impressed with Answer's response on their description of what they wanted to
I think
do.
they also went out of their way to try to highlight that they've got a number of projects that similar to the situation at Killam where construction will be adjacent to an occupied school.
Yeah.
So I thought that, again, just at least some thought and attention to detail and specificity to our situation.
Karen?
Yeah, so think you answered my question, cause I liked left field, I liked the custom approach, like I felt like they were understood our project and we're trying to communicate that. But if their bulk of their experience is with a method that doesn't really fit this project, then maybe that puts them down for me. I apologize, I thought Collier's was really generic. This is where I'm not in the industry, not
Yeah.
knowing, it sounds like they're a long, large, well-established firm.
Yeah.
I'd love to see firms go above and beyond and I know these can be boilerplate and a lot of work, so in general, Hill and Hill and Answer and Turver were pretty close for me and so.
I mean,
You're the same as me.
Yes, and Nancy as well, but this discussion is helpful.
yeah, so, I mean, we could, sounds like we might be leaning towards eliminating left field and Cref. One of the things, Collier's, we shouldn't even talk about them because they seem to be a front runner. One of the things that jumped out at me, on their proposal, both positive and negative, is that they have a lot of staff, and they had a lot of they had a lot of support. Like if you look at their org chart, they got someone for everything. That can lend itself to, they got someone to bill us for everything.
Yeah, right. And not one person's showing up each time. It's
Right, no,
someone else.
one person's
Yeah.
showing up, and every time one person shows up, and I'm not, throwing shade on anyone or disparaging any company, but that was one of the things that jumped out at me. They've got someone for everything we need. They are a big company. If we need an architect, if we have an issue and we need an expert on an opinion matter, they're gonna have that person. But it also might be a situation where we have one project manager that shows up every week, and whenever they bill us 10 hours, we get 3 other consultants that are billing us 1 hour, and it just piles up. So everyone was, but I think they're definitely in the, we wanna interview them. I think, I'm kinda seeing Collier's, Turva, Answer and Hill as potential interview candidates if we wanna go to 4. Kinda feeling like we're in a consensus on that, Nancy?
Yeah, so with Turva, it doesn't bother you that they really haven't done much and they're doing a lot of, colleges and university work. I didn't see too much elementary school or.
Well, I mean, a construction project's a construction project, it's
I
not.
know, but I'm just worried about the MSBA and trying to get all the funding through and do they know the ins and outs of something like that? That would be my concern because most of their projects are, in fact, their current projects are UMass Dartmouth, UMass Lowell. They do have a high school here. They have one elementary school, but it's a building envelope HVAC upgrade. Colburn Hall University. So I rated them lower because I didn't see their experience.
Yeah,
So, and I think that's an important distinction, Nancy, because you have to remember that the OPM, in my mind, kind of serves two distinct roles. One is to help us hire the architect and then facilitate the design process and all the interaction with MSBA up until the bid period, issuance of CDs in the bid period.
Right.
Then the second phase of their service really starts, and that is as an OPM and the construction supervision. So I do think that with a lack of specific MSBA school experience could be a negative in that regard, at least on the front end of that. John, your construction is construction. However, there's that front end or the front half of the service that we expect from the OPM that I do agree with Nancy's perspective.
That was, you were questioning Turver, is that right?
Turba, yeah,
yeah.
Well, that was my lowest of my top four, so.
yeah, mine too.
Okay, so
That's
if-
why I'm curious why.
my top three then is Collier's, Answer and Hill.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that consensus? I mean, is that what we're building to? Is-
My third was Turba.
Yeah.
I'd answer as my second to last.
Yeah. So, on Turva, to answer, echo what you said, Nancy, that was one of the things that jumped out to me. They do have MSBA, experience. They've got the Marshfield High School, the Walpole Middle School, a middle school in, the Kennedy, which I think is in Natick. Hingham Middle School. They show those 4 projects in their immediate briefs. One thing that jumps out at you there, diversity of architects. 3 of those 4 projects are with the same architect.
And the same builder too.
Yeah, and the same builder. Then they get into some charter schools.
Right.
And a bunch of accelerated repair projects. They do have the Bill Ricca, which is Shawmut and CM at Risk, a different
That was
architect.
with Left Field, right? Wasn't that a?
And we think that might have been a joint venture with Left Field or somehow.
And
So
their current projects are University of Massachusetts Medical School, Boston Collegiate Charter School, and UMass Amherst School of Public Health.
Yeah.
So it just worried me, I wasn't seeing the experience that I wanted. That was true.
I could definitely get my head around interviewing Collier's, Answer, and Hill. So I didn't have Turva ranked that high for some of the reasons that you mentioned.
One thing I did notice too was that a couple of them had, one was a claim, and we know claims can happen for no reason, and then one was a safety violation. So I didn't know how much we pay attention to that or not.
A safety violation, while obviously safety is paramount, I would venture a guess that if we pulled OSHA files for every single project every one of these firms has done,
Something.
we'd find that there was an OSHA violation somewhere on one of those jobs.
Yeah.
Some of the
Stupid things, right?
well, I'm not, I think they have a way of either not mentioning it, someone that said that they have one safety violation, if one firm here said they had one safety violation and they were 100% honest, they might have the best safety record of all of them. The other 5 might just not be mentioning it.
Right.
It's 100% something we should pay attention to if we think there's a history there. It's just difficult to, some of that stuff becomes difficult. You can't really fake the projects you've worked on, the size and things like that. But there's the working relationships part of it, which, until we get to the point of narrowing it down and checking references, we're not really gonna get much further.
Knowledge, right.
My only question is, and less about the ranking, it's just about, should we have more of a debate around 3 and 4 if we think that interviewing 4 is going to be burdensome? I think that was, unless someone feels really strongly about, that delineation between 3 and 4, unless it's not gonna be a big deal for, to do the interviews, and to take that on. That would be the only kind of point that I highlighted. It seems like everyone's kind of has them in that kind of grouping. If 4 is not a big deal, then maybe it's not worth a debate. But if it is, then that might be worth spend a little more time on it.
Well, did anyone have Turva ranked significantly high?
They were my number 3.
Number 3?
Yeah.
They probably landed at 3 or 4 for me. They landed at 4 for me. Would anyone be opposed to interviewing Answer, Hill, and Colliers? Would that be, Carly, you probably have them ranked as high as anybody? I think that would be 3 firms that could handle the project. That we'd be well served to do some of the digging and get past some of the boilerplate, see some of the people, do some, reference checking.
Could we invite, would you guys like to comment? I'd love to hear your.
I ranked the 3 tops as Answer, Colliers, and Turbo.
People are like all over the map.
Oh, it's like I called on you for a reason.
That was a setup.
That was, I had.
That was good.
All right, I'm gonna stick to my guns a little bit more now.
Fidel, did you have any commentary on them?
I matched with Joe actually. I think the question that Ed asked is an interesting one, and I think it lends itself to the next item on the agenda, right? Who's going to be on the interview committee? And if we schedule each interview to be an hour, right? We have a subcommittee of this committee posted for Wednesday. And we're starting at 9 a.m. So if 4 members of the committee have 4 hours to give, then it might be worth doing 4.
Okay. So do we wanna, I think we're at Kreff and left fielder out. We're at 4, potentially going down to 3. Do we wanna move on to the next topic? Figure out who the interview subcommittee is.
Yeah. So I posted. Jackie actually posted this committee for Wednesday, the 17th, starting at 9 a.m. in this room. I foresee it being a hybrid meeting like this, but certainly the interview the subcommittee that's interviewing would be requested to be in person, and the firms would be requested to be in person as well. I reached out to all 6 already, and I asked them ahead of time if they were available at the time, and I asked them to reserve the slot, and all responded saying that it was fine. So I would also request that maybe that subcommittee we have a short huddle up maybe between now and then, just to lay down what questions we're going to be asking, and that we agree that only the members of that subcommittee will be the ones asking questions. That the public is more than welcome to attend. It's an open meeting, but we will only allow those 4 members of the committee, and maybe the staff as well, like Joe, Tom, our superintendent, myself as well. But certainly, we want to limit essentially who's asking questions as much as possible.
Okay. I think everything you said makes sense. The time frame obviously is very tight. It's 2 days from now. We probably shouldn't have skipped the last meeting that we did. I'll call that on myself. So we would have been better prepared if we had.
It was during town meeting, so it was
during town meeting. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
But we can move on to the potential 4 members of that committee. If we want to start with any volunteers.
I'll start with someone that doesn't want to volunteer. I don't have the right experience, so I think it should be, I don't think that, I would be well served to be on the committee. I'd like to listen in, I'd like to watch, from that perspective, but as far as from a questions perspective, I don't think that's,
Yeah, okay.
And unfortunately, I'm gonna be in mediation all day, Thursday in Boston, so I'm not available.
I feel like I'm too close to some of these firms in my day-to-day business, and I shouldn't be on the interview committee. I feel very comfortable with ranking them and being part of this discussion, but I think being on a full-person committee that decides, or makes a recommendation, obviously this full committee will decide. I don't think I should be on that full-person committee for that reason. I was hoping, the full-person committee, Greg's shaking his head, I thought Carla, Greg, John, and Nancy would be an excellent group.
I think we should interview 4. We
Okay.
have 10 people before, agreed to interview 4.
My husband's been having some health issues, so I'm not gonna be available for 4 hours that morning. I can maybe make some of it work, but I can't call 4 hours work. I
Okay.
have to get into his treatment center at the community. So I leave, I have to leave at 2, so I wouldn't be able to do 4.
Okay.
But you can do 3, I hear.
I could do 3, I can't do 4.
That's the point,
We
right?
start early.
4 hours.
We start at 8.
No, it's already posted. And we have to post it by today in order to be,
John, how do you feel about being part of that committee, your availability?
I was going to non-volunteer, let's put it that way. I was gonna play the age card.
Yeah, right. He's a sweet guy.
Elaborate, please.
When I'm 86 years of age, you know.
You just get to, you get to decide what you do and
I'm not gonna be here
what you
when
don't
this
do.
school is built.
Aw.
I'll be somewhere, Brooksby probably, or in the grave, I don't know. I was gonna non-volunteer for the committee, but I am available, yes, but keen.
It's a chance. Sounds, I'm sensing a chance.
Yeah, same as Nancy,
Yeah,
same
we
as
need
Nancy.
perspective.
We can get you there.
Yeah. I think you have excellent perspective.
I can do it, let's put it that way, yes, if you insist.
I'm insisting.
Okay, you owe me one.
Whatever you name it. And Greg, it sounds like you've got conflict at that time.
Several conflicts across that time.
Okay. I don't know, meeting,
I'm available.
Carla's available.
So we got 3 for 3. Not 3 for 4.
Don't have any thoughts on someone to replace Greg? Do we wanna do it with 3 people?
Fine with me.
May I say that if you were gonna allow staff to participate, I think 3 would be fine. I was also gonna join I don't think I'm the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and we'll be there, obviously. We'll be there.
But I think having somebody
Joe, be
else's
there, I'll be
perspective who isn't necessarily in the construction field is not a bad deal.
No,
I
it's not a
definitely
bad
want
deal,
to
yes.
attend. I definitely want to
So I
attend.
think you
just
should be
don't-
the other person, because you
Sure.
can ask about the community connection and how all the social media stuff might work, because
Oh,
I
I
have
can
no
ask-
clear
alright.
idea about that.
Well, and I would offer too that a lot of this has to do with the relationship.
Personality.
And
Personality.
communication, it's not just about nuts and bolts, it's about the effectiveness of how they interact with us and how they're gonna represent us and advocate for us.
Again, not to jump in when I'm in a conflict and I can't do it, but I'd be interested in learning about the team and who's gonna be the point person
Yeah.
that you're actually gonna be dealing with. Because it's fine to have a vice president or a program director or whatever,
Right.
but who's the project manager? Who's the person that we're gonna be dealing with on a day-to-day basis?
Right.
That would
Hopefully
be,
they
that's,
bring them.
that's what I
Yeah.
would be interested in.
Yeah.
I think one of the key things is, I think for all the people, there's half of us that aren't in the field, is the prep between now and Wednesday morning, as far as the consistent list of questions and the criteria. I think that would be, if we needed a 4th, and although I was the first one to put my hand down, having some comfort around what that is, as a committee, I
Yeah.
think that would give me and I think others probably comfort in standing in.
Okay.
Even if you didn't ask the questions, how about helping with the questions?
I have no problem with that. One of the things, that comes to mind for me that I wanna know is, definitely who the people are that are boots on the ground. I wanna know, I want them to tell me I wanna know that they're gonna collaborate. I wanna know that they're gonna solve problems first, figure out the blame later. Those are the things that jump out at me. It's hard to get, you're not gonna get that out of this. You know, that's a big thing. Definitely, obviously, we gotta start with the nuts and bolts of, you know, what's your experience? Have you built this before? Have you done MSBA before? Can you get through? And then it becomes someone that we feel like we can work with for a long period of time. And for me, you know, big thing is, you know, openness, transparency. You know, when there's an issue, we want them being open and transparent with us, solving the problem, and being collaborative. Those are the big things for me. Fidel?
I think once we pick the four, I'll talk to those four about having a follow-up meeting just so that we write these down, right? And then it's like 1 through 10, and we assign the questions and we ask them the same way, and it's not, you know, not as standardized as possible. And we can invite you into that meeting as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Whoever would like to join. I guess not.
And I think, you know, like Pat, you bring up something, you know, good, when you talk about that, what I question is, okay, so in that scenario that you know, if there's problem solving, what's that facility do? Like, if they're communicating, whom are they communicating, you know, like, whom do they communicate with? And, you know, like, is that staff, is that this committee, or is that, you know, like, and so I think some of that is, okay, well, it's good to answer those questions, or have those questions, but it's also good to know, like what they answer, if we know that, okay, well, that's kind of BS, or that's real, that they actually did do that. Like, so that's, some of that depth I think is helpful, you know, not only knowing the question to ask, but then like being able to kind of gauge their response.
Yeah.
So that and then we can share that, you know, for the folks that aren't in the room.
Yeah. Wednesday. I would probably attend virtually, just listen into the interviews. While I'm doing some other things possibly, but I don't know, I think that's a good 4-person committee, the fourth being between Ed or Karen. I don't know if anyone, you know, has a preference. Do you guys wanna do a coin toss, or I think you'd both be great. I think you'd both be great.
I just checked my schedule, I am available, so I could do it, but
I'll be here. I'll be here either way. It's
Can
fine.
it be 5% or is that
No,
more?
that's a quorum.
Gotcha.
And we're the not having a quorum will help that
Process.
you take it.
that 4-person develop questions,
Yeah,
Take it
gotcha,
outside.
without having
you know,
to
so
do it.
that we're not giving them all the questions before they show up.
Yeah, gotcha.
You should do it, you're more connected than I am, so you.
Well,
Yeah, I
it'd be
like
nice
that.
to have a school committee member and a select board member,
Yeah, I think so.
Exactly.
but again, I need the questions, but I can follow up.
Agreed.
Okay, so
And is the committee okay if I coordinate with the members, so sorry, with the contractors and I lay on a schedule, or is there a preference of the order that you'd like to see them in? Do you care? And are we doing 3 or are we doing 4?
Well, I won't be here after 12, so
Would you be okay
if they continue
12 o'clock
on,
slot continue?
absolutely.
And it'll be recorded, obviously, and
Yeah.
we'll ask the same questions, we'll just
Yeah,
reassign
That's
them.
fine, yeah, I don't have a problem, as long as everybody else doesn't mind me or stuck it down.
So we'll do those 4, which is Colliers, Turva, Answer, and Hill. The 4-person committee will be Nancy, Karen, John, and Carla.
We're rolling, look at this.
I'm the only guy there. I mean,
Hey, there you go, good.
Looking good.
as long as nobody calls you ladies.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all.
Adele, if I could have a request, if I could have Turva not at noon, just so I can interview with them, because they're the ones that are the lowest on my list, I just want to.
We're not a new.
You're talking about pre-publishing questions? What would be the mechanism for that?
No publishing, we'll send
No
it
No
together.
publishing,
publishing, no
Put in,
publishing.
making a list,
Yeah, we'll
Making a
put it
list.
together.
Then we
put
put
it together to Fidel or what?
So I actually cheated. I emailed Dale and asked him to put questions together for us.
Awesome,
Oh, boy.
it's even
And
better.
and I emailed them to this committee just a few minutes ago. So I guess that could be the starting point if you'd like. If you have any questions, it is 13 questions or 12 questions, sorry, but they're kind of related.
So we'll meet
So we
We
can
will
meet
meet.
after.
We will meet.
between now.
Meet on Zoom, probably just to make it quick, like 30 minutes.
So do we wanna, does anyone wanna make I assume we need motions? So we could probably start with a motion, from someone that we've established the top four.
I motion that we interview Colliers, Turva, Dancer, and Hill Wednesday, May 17th.
Second.
Any further discussion? Carla,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And Pat, aye as well. So that passed. Wanna go for the committee?
I move to create a interview subcommittee consisting of Nancy, Karen, John, and myself.
Second.
Any further discussion? Carla?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
John, Greg?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. So we've got those out of the way. Does that committee wanna set up a time right now to do a Zoom, like tomorrow or something? You're gonna have to do it like tomorrow, right?
Yeah, like, we have no
Unless-
choice.
Unless you wanted to stick around and talk about it now.
I think we'll stick around after this.
Yeah,
meeting.
that works better for me.
Just in case.
Tomorrow it's nice.
And then we're looking at some minutes too, right?
That's the. So before we jump into that, just the next meeting. So that's posted, Wednesday's meeting is posted.
Good to know.
And then do we need a follow-up meeting?
We do.
So we'll have those, what's our expected time frame for the next meeting?
So the
I don't have the time,
So the next one is we're hoping that it's the 22nd, so next Monday at 6 p.m. And we do have a badge pinning ceremony at 7, so hopefully it's a quicker meeting.
yeah, that makes sense. I have something at 7 that I can be late for, but that would be good. We should be, assume that committee will be coming back with a recommendation.
Yeah, no, that's my question. What is expected of the committee in terms of reporting?
So the I think what's expected is a ranking of those 4.
Ranking.
Right, and knowing that we are going to move to contract negotiation with the top. And if contract negotiations do not go well, we'll just go in that order until we are under contract with one of them.
Just a logistic question, just like, and just for next Monday. Should we, how open can we be, like, once we get to that stage as far as like talking a little bit more in detail, about like, again, we kind of ranked and we talked about it, but like now that we're gonna be doing interviews, is there anything that we can't say, or, what I mean, I just got a curiosity,
I would defer to our procurement,
Smart.
our procurement.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we don't want to be capricious is the legal word, right? I mean, we want to be objective, right? And we don't want to disqualify a company because of the color tie they wear.
Yeah, no, I mean,
to a
I'm just,
meeting, right? Or
like
things
an
that.
example, like if there are answers that we're like, I just didn't like that answer, you know what I mean, like, and so to that, like, you know, like how we share that, just so that we, I mean, and, cause I think if someone feels strongly about something like that, I think we wanna be able to share that openly with the committee, but also wanna know what where the guardrails are.
Yeah. I think it's gray area, right? I mean, like we certainly want to be careful in how we say things, right? Because these meetings are open to the public and recorded.
Yeah.
And RCTV is filming.
That's why I brought it up,
Yeah,
cause of the source.
Yep.
Yep.
No. We want to be objective on the content or maybe the answers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's appropriate.
Yeah. One other thing that we didn't cover is checking some references on these four. How we wanna do that, who we want to do that. Perhaps we could rely on Fidel, you and Joe.
Yep.
To, you know, and maybe it's we call, you go through the RFPs.
So we usually do that after the ranking, right? Like as we're moving into the contracting phase.
Would we want to do references? I mean, it plays into your ranking, right?
I would think so.
So if we could do references, it's all tight time frame, and basically give that feedback
To the fore.
to the four.
Sure.
Yeah, you can give it I don't know if it makes sense to give it to the full committee or not, but it's probably best to just give it to the four. They're the ones that need it, and, you know, maybe get in touch, you know, I think making sure that we treat all four the same. You know, we're asking them the same questions, so we're not gonna call 8 references on one and 2 on another, so probably 2 references. If we can get a hold of 2 references that are listed in here, I'd recommend, to the extent we can, we try to focus on, try to figure out who the main player is. You can usually see in their org chart, who's the person we're probably gonna have the most, who's gonna have the most impact on the project, and we're gonna have the most interaction with, and try to get at least one reference specifically for that person and one more general for the company. I think that would be extremely helpful to that
That'd be great.
subcommittee.
Sure.
The references, they're not listed there. If they're bad references, they're not listed there. So, but they might also, you know, give you some feedback that we really like this person because they were really collaborative. We really like this person for some other reason that they think is great, that maybe the committee does not.
Yeah.
So I think that can be helpful.
When there were issues, how was it handled? Was it problem solved with landlord?
Right. Okay.
Just another quick question. So for the folks that aren't on the committee that are gonna be observing, should we offer that, like, instead of Monday, just supplying, you know, kind of feedback from the subcommittee, you're supplying that feedback, or is that taboo?
I don't think, though, that 4-person, we're delegating the responsibility of interviewing and evaluating to that 4-person committee, so I don't think, you know, I'm gonna watch or listen in on the interviews, but for me to call up Nancy and give her my opinion, I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, yeah, perfect, yeah, I just wanna understand that.
You can't for open meeting
Yeah,
law.
right.
So we're already gonna be at a quorum, so we shouldn't be talking with anybody out or collaborating with
Perfect.
anybody
Right.
outside. And if you come to watch, you really can't have a conversation just
Yep,
for
right.
that reason.
Now, I expect the subcommittee to come to the full committee with a recommendation of the rankings. And if you were on that call and you really feel strongly that you wanna, you know, I think that's the time
Perfect.
to have that discussion.
That's
Say,
good.
geez, I really think that company should be 2 instead of 3.
Perfect.
Right, and that's a perfect time for you to say like, this is my impression of that.
That's what I wanted to be able to kind of understand, like the right place, right time, right method to be able to share.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, will the interviews be recorded in any way?
It'll be just like this.
So there will be a record.
They'll be on RCTV, hopefully,
Well, are they on live, you mean, or
both.
taped? So
Hopefully both. I gotta check in with Phil, but hopefully both. Hopefully on YouTube and also on TV.
So in terms of the live, which you might be getting at, the first company to go through it, who's gonna watch it and have the questions,
Yeah, but my question.
do we wanna
Yeah, do you
invite people?
record them and then put them
Record
out?
it, right.
Yeah,
People are welcome,
right.
maybe they're not even welcome to come, right?
I think that's a great point. If we have the technology to do that, so that it's a virtual meeting, people can attend by Zoom.
But then
It's a
why would-
public meeting,
It'll be
so,
it could be recorded.
I think if people wanted to watch it, they could either way through the Zoom. I mean,
Well, I was gonna say they could get a
they
Zoom
could still get
connection.
into to the Zoom.
Sure.
That's true too.
I think, and I think having it on YouTube, since happening, I think it's also a good thing for transparency reasons and the
Right.
community to feel like they're a part of
And
it.
you're only gonna get someone a 3-hour head start, it's not that, I don't think it's.
Exactly. We touched on this a little at the last meeting and trying to keep that 4-person committee for these reasons. But I 100% think the benefits of being open and transparent with the interviews
Yeah.
outweighs the possibility that the company with the random draw for number 4 has the foresight to do that and gives them a competitive advantage.
I guess I don't have a problem with, I think it should be videoed and provided after. The live piece of it is maybe where we tweak it a little bit. People are invited to come, right, because they have to be in person. The companies have to be in person.
The companies are gonna be requested to be in person, yeah.
Yeah, if the companies are in person and the interviews are in person, people can come to the meeting still.
Right.
And we'll be recording it, but it just won't be live. Can you do that?
You can do whatever you like,
Well, I
but
think
I would argue of having the Zoom option, I think is good for staff also that can't be in this room, right? And for other members that do wanna watch it live, right? So having the Zoom option is good, and once you have the Zoom option, that Zoom option is open to everyone. I mean, it's posted right now.
I guess I don't feel strongly one way or the other, but just from a devil's advocate perspective, if no one else can participate in the conversation, only the 4 interview subcommittee members can ask questions and interact with the companies that are here, what's the difference between somebody listening to it live without the ability to interact or somebody listening to it on recording after the fact?
It's your call.
It's the same experience to them. I could see if you were going to invite anyone else to participate like an open meeting and ask questions. You would need to have live Zoom ability to participate. But if the only people interacting with the people in the room are gonna be the 4 subcommittee members, the difference between experiencing it live through Zoom or watching the recording after the fact is the same effect.
Sure, but at that point, no one is able to go on Zoom, right? So whether it's say for example, you know, a staff member that like the principal of the Killam school who wanted to hop on, right? That person will not be able to join the Zoom, which essentially means we're killing the Zoom option, and it's just going to be in the room recorded.
And they can watch it afterwards.
You can watch it after.
It's up to you.
I'll
So-
put out there for consideration.
Shoot, go ahead.
Sorry, that, I mean, we are moving steps towards all meetings being hybrid. The legislature just passed that, so I guess I'm a little bit, I'm inclined to go with Fidel on this in terms of one way or another, making it available publicly in a hybrid fashion.
I think once I'm not an expert on open meeting law, but once we allow a 5th member of this committee to join, now we're at a quorum, and we have 3 choices, right? We have in-person only, we have 2, in-person only or hybrid, right? Zoom, virtual only is not an option anymore. Doesn't matter, we're not doing that. So we can either do it in-person only, or we can do it hybrid. And once we do it hybrid, it needs to be out there. It needs to be out there in Zoom for anyone to join on Zoom, which
So,
would
but
include.
we are.
Am I wrong
But
with
we
that?
are posted, so
You are posted.
So we
That's
could
hybrid right
join.
Oh, okay.
So
we're
we
posted.
could join.
Alright, we're
Yeah.
fine.
We're just not, we're not anyone that's not on the subcommittee just isn't talking.
Exactly.
But we're posted so we can join.
You're
Right.
deliberating.
Yeah, we can join and everything's set up for that, but I don't know that there's an option to not allow. Is there at this point, we've posted a hybrid meeting, is there, unless we'd have to bump it a day and repost? It's posted.
I think we're also worried just because it's probably something that's not gonna happen, honestly. I mean, if they have to be here in person, when are they gonna have time to jump on Zoom and watch the rest of the meeting? Maybe in the other quarter, but I wouldn't worry about it.
And how would you know even people that showed up, how would you know if they're from, are they all gonna wear name badges? You know, like, you know, could see, I mean, you know, and like, if we're thinking about it in that context, I mean, you could have anyone just walk in.
And watch it, yeah, and they might be the other company, so there you go.
And,
I would worry
and
about
if
it.
someone, you know, someone from company 4 is either in the room and then they show up at the 4th, you know, that could, or they were on Zoom and they're seen on Zoom,
I mean,
and then
that's,
they're here, that
that's-
might reflect poorly on them.
Yeah.
That might not be a
Exactly.
good decision for them to do that.
exactly.
I do think that the having it open, it's posted as a hybrid, I think we go with it. We can take a look at who the people are on Zoom.
I think that's a great point, Ben.
And there's, we rely on the market forces. If one of these firms has a whole bunch of people watching the first interview and they're the 4th interviewer, you know, that might reflect poorly on them. It might not, but I'm comfortable. It's posted the way it is. I think we should just roll ahead with it. The last item on the agenda, does anyone want to discuss that further?
Sorry, so we're keeping it hybrid, we're keeping it as Zoom, and we're putting it on YouTube as well?
Sure.
That's what I heard.
I was still a little unclear about your time commitment, Nancy, what?
I can be here from 9 to noon, but I have to leave at noon to get into
So
this
it's 9,
appointment.
that's 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12.
so
That
I
means
can
there's
only
only,
do
you can only
3.
do 3.
Right.
So what do we do with the 4th?
You can, it will be recorded, you can catch up remotely. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels about that, but you have that option.
Yeah, well, yeah, I will, but you're right, maybe it's better to have you on it than it is for me, because I can only be here 3 hours, there's just no other choice.
No, I think it's better to have Nancy on it.
We voted already.
Or 3,
Yeah,
okay.
no.
I think so.
No,
Yeah, and I
I
can
think it's
be
better.
here for the 3 hours, I
Sure.
just,
I think so.
no,
And
that's
thank
fine.
you for doing that.
Yeah,
No,
I
absolutely.
can't go
No,
beyond that.
yeah, absolutely.
And you can watch the 4th one too.
Yeah, oh yeah, I will,
Yeah.
yeah, I plan on it,
Isn't technology great?
it is, it's wonderful.
So the last item, I think we're good. The last item on the agenda is review and approval of the prior meeting minutes. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes?
It came from Jackie.
Not for me.
Motion.
Absolutely.
I move to approve the 3/20/23 meeting minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion? Carla?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Does anyone have any other business?
I move to adjourn.
Seconded.
Carla?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you all.
Thank you.